Hello everyone. This week I'm going to be discussing the Affordable Care Act's implementation. This presentation focuses solely on the initial impact of the ACA, and it's definitely more of an overview than an in-depth review. If you're looking for more information on this topic, please take a look at the Works Cited page. That is the last slide of this presentation. For this week, I'd simply like to discuss what the country, and really more specifically the Obama administration, expected for the rollout of the ACA, how they attempted to accomplish those goals, and what actually happened when the legislation was implemented. I'm not going to address whether or not the ACA was the right choice for this country. That's definitely something that's better left to our discussion boards, but I hope this is a helpful look into the realities of healthcare policy. As many of you know, the passage of the Affordable Care Act was an historic moment in U.S. politics and in healthcare policy. The climate within which the ACA was passed was contentious at best and really hostile most often. There were many concerns regarding the ACA legislation. Some of those issues were valid, such as concerns over the burden penalties would place on low-income individuals who opted to not carry insurance, or the legality of mandating health insurance at all. However, some concerns, we have learned, were unfounded. I'm sure everyone remembers the outcry over death panels and rationing of health care and all of that. Regardless of the validity of the opposition, the ACA was a tough sell, which made it all the more historic when the legislation actually passed. This is kind of an interesting little cartoon that definitely exemplifies the fears surrounding the passage of Obamacare. Definitely an interesting moment in history. The ACA's passage was a landmark moment in healthcare politics, and there was no group more hopeful for its successful implementation than the Obama administration and, incidentally, the Democratic Party as a whole. In addition to those groups, local healthcare agencies and those working directly with the uninsured anticipated a dramatic drop in the number of uninsured individuals, assumed most, if not all states would accept federal money to expand Medicaid, and that individuals would readily take advantage of subsidies and other cost-saving measures rather than face penalties for foregoing insurance altogether. The federal government took many steps to ensure the success of the Affordable Care Act. Businesses, states, and individuals were offered a variety of incentives to encourage adoption of the new policy. Millions of dollars were spent on a specialized website called healthcare.gov to provide instant access to health insurance information and assist with enrollment. Multiple programs, most utilizing newly trained guides called health navigators, were established to reach underserved populations such as immigrants, the elderly, and uninsured young adults. Those in support of the ACA's rapid implementation viewed these programs as the keys to ensuring a quick, streamlined process resulting in a massive influx of newly insured Americans in the healthcare market. This is that very memorable front page of the original healthcare.gov website. The poor girl who posed for this stock photo faced some really unfair backlash. Definitely a interesting moment in history. The actual implementation of the ACA was not quite as successful as many hoped. The first and most obvious issue was the crash of the healthcare.gov website. The website faced a myriad of issues which ultimately meant millions of Americans were unable to access the information they needed to enroll in mandated health insurance. Public outcry was immediate and heated. Ultimately, extensions to the firmly set enrollment deadline had to be granted as a way to make amends for the failure of the website. A second, equally damaging blow came from multiple states' refusal to expand Medicaid, which further limited the ability of uninsured Americans to obtain health insurance. Overall, the implementation could best be described as rocky, and these missteps caused massive levels of mistrust and frustration throughout the country. Here is that infamous error message shown on the healthcare.gov website. If any of you tried to enroll in the first month or two following the ACA's passage, you were probably lucky enough to see this lovely message. Despite its multiple failures and setbacks, there were actually some impressive successes in the whole rollout of the ACA. Because of this legislation, millions of uninsured young adults were instantly granted coverage under their parents' plans. 28 states accepted additional federal funding for Medicaid initially. I believe now it is more like 31. And this resulted in massive expansions of state run programs and a huge reduction in the overall number of uninsured individuals living in those states. Each year has seen steady gains in the utilization of government-sponsored insurance plans, and it is estimated that 25 million will have taken advantage of these plans by the year 2017. This is a great chart showing the breakdown of health insurance enrollment following the passage of the ACA. I believe this was published in the New England Journal of Medicine last year. So even though the ACA had kind of a rocky start, it's actually enjoyed some level of success, and it does appear to be a viable means of providing that insurance for millions of Americans who didn't have it before this legislation passed. Though it's clear it will definitely need adjustments and it might even need major overhauls, it is looking more and more likely that the ACA will not be repealed, and ultimately it will be a successful means of providing most Americans with affordable health insurance. That's all I have to discuss today. While this was by no means an exhaustive look at the implementation of the ACA, I do hope it's provided some insight into the efficacy of the program and given you some ideas about how implementation works. If you have questions or thoughts about the subject, please let me know. And I know it's a very complicated issue, but I still think there's plenty of room for debate. If you want more information, just in general, take a look at the Works Cited page, or you can always contact me directly. Thank you all. I hope you have a great week.